Welcome back to Creation Magazine Live, and in this segment we're going to be talking about Mars, the red planet.
Mars, the red planet. This is an article from Creation 32.2,
right?
And this one here, and this one is by Jonathan Sarfati.
Right.
And,
Hear his name a lot.
Is it, yes, yeah.
Writes a lot of articles.
Well, it's a lot of our Australian staff. The magazine has always been produced in Australia by our Australian office, and it's a lot of the Australian staff that contribute to it.
Right.
So, Mars, the red planet. Mars is the famous red planet and, not surprisingly, named after the Roman god of war. The fourth planet from the Sun, it can approach the third planet, Earth, as closely as 54.5 million kilometers, or about 33.9 million miles. Oh, it's so close. Of course, this is still a huge distance. Oh, see, there you go. There we go. So it's only recently that a number of probes have been sent there, but this is still easier than most other planets. It also makes it one of the brightest objects in the night sky, surpassed only by the Moon, Venus, and sometimes Jupiter. Another factor makes Martian probes even more attractive to secular scientists. While Venus can approach closer to the Earth, about 42 million kilometers or 26 million miles, it is a hellhole, with temperatures hot enough to melt lead and an atmosphere 90 times denser than ours that's mostly carbon dioxide and clouds made of sulfuric acid.
Wow.
We got to do the article on Venus. I remember reading that years ago in Creation Magazine. What amazing planet. By contrast, many hope that Mars is hospitable to life.
Right.
Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
These hopes have not been realized and are not likely to be. Mars is a dry, frigid world, yet recent discoveries point to huge floods in the past. What is Mars like? Mars is only about half the diameter of Earth and one-tenth the mass. In fact, it's roughly intermediate in size between the Earth and our Moon. Mars itself has two moons, Phobos and Deimos. You get the pronunciation of these things. It's easy to read them, but it's hard to pronounce them. They are much tinier than our Moon and orbit much closer. Phobos is only about 27 kilometers long and orbits just over 9,000 kilometers from Mars. Deimos is even smaller at 15 kilometers long and orbits over 23,000 kilometers away. Because they are so small and they are irregularly shaped with insufficient gravity to stabilize into a roughly spherical shape. Mars has the distinction of having the largest volcano in the solar system, Olympus Mons, 27 kilometers high, 3 times the elevation of Mount Everest. Being a shallow, sloping, shield volcano, it is enormously wide, 550 kilometers. In fact, Mount Everest could fit in its crater. You take Mount Everest and put it in the crater of this volcano. Huge. Mars is nowhere near hospitable as hospitable as Earth, with an atmosphere 100 times thinner than ours and about 95% carbon dioxide. While Mars is only 50% further from the Sun, it's enough to cause temperatures well below freezing most of the time, and no known liquid water. Conversely, Earth's orbit, as well as its size, are well designed for life. Mars' famous redness is caused by ferric or iron oxide, basically rust. Mars has polar ice caps, which grow and shrink visibly over the seasons, but they comprise mainly dry ice or solid carbon dioxide. And this next part's called Mars Origin According to an Eyewitness. Intriguing little subtitle here. For the truth about the origin of anything, it helps to have a reliable eyewitness record. Such a record always outweighs any circumstantial evidence that might be interpreted in another way. Genesis claims to be the witness of one who was there, the Creator. In Genesis 1:14-19, we read about that, and here's the text. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth," and it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. The Hebrew word for stars refers to any bright object in the sky, so includes objects that become shooting stars or meteors, planets of our solar system, and by extension any planets around other stars. So Mars was created on day 4 of creation week, 3 days after the Earth, about 6,000 years ago. Life on Mars. This is the big question today, of course.
This is the creation-evolution connection, I guess.
That's right, sending probes to Mars to see if there's life there. This cold, dry, rusty planet has been the subject of the most famous alien invasion story of all time, The War of the Worlds, by evolutionist and eugenicist Herbert George Wells, H.G. Wells. A radio broadcast on the 30th of October in 1938 by the famous actor and producer Orson Welles caused widespread panic as many people mistook fiction for fact. It's no accident that evolutionists like Wells liked the idea. After all, if life evolved on Earth, then surely it must have evolved elsewhere. Such ideas still greatly motivate searches for extraterrestrial life. Canals. There are these huge canals on Mars. This next section has a subtitle, Canals. Much of the hope sprang from astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli.
Wow.
Schiaparelli, who claimed that he had found long straight lines on Mars that he called canali. And this is actually the Italian word for channels, but was mistranslated canals. And yet he didn't rule out that they might be artificial. This inspired American businessman and astronomer Percival Lowell to study Mars extensively, and he thought that the canals were built by an intelligent civilization to tap the polar ice caps, which he thought were a vast source of water for a dying world. But Vincenzo Cerulli, or Cerulli, C-E-R-U-I-L-L-I, showed that these canals, or channels, didn't even exist, but they were an optical illusion. Similarly, the much-touted giant face on Mars was conclusively proven to be an illusion from shadows of an ordinary landmass.
Ufologists talk a lot about that.
It's, yeah, life on Mars and so on. What about floods on Mars? This is another interesting part of Mars. Yet, although there is no water on Mars now, liquid water, there are many features on Mars that point to huge floods in its history. There's also evidence for glacial movement, sedimentary processes, and even geysers. Secular scientists even refer to a Noachian epoch, like the epoch of Noah on Mars, named after the southern landmass, in turn meaning the land of Noah. At the very least, many scientists agree that Mars was once much wetter. In 2001, NASA announced Mars may once have been a very wet place. A host of clues remain from an earlier era, billions of years ago, hinting that the red planet was the host to great rivers, lakes, and perhaps even an ocean. That's where the quote ends. More recently, geographers have analyzed the advanced map generated by computer from satellite images. They concluded that there was a giant ocean in the northern hemisphere fed by an extensive river network, in turn fed by rainfall. That's amazing. The article goes on to conclude, but there's pictures here included of okay, so scientists won't accept a flood on Earth.
Right. Many scientists, yeah.
Many
the majority,
scientists,
I guess.
Not our scientists.
Yeah.
But they're happy to have a flood on Mars to explain the canyons there, some of them bigger than Grand Canyon.
Right.
Have a look at these pictures here. You have a picture of Mars and a picture of Earth. Now, Mars is about half the size of Earth. These pictures are not to scale. But which planet do you think had the global flood? It
seems pretty self-evident, doesn't it?
It does. But it's just amazing. There's great information on Mars and many other topics here in Creation Magazine and on creation.com.